The bell above my shop door, a tiny, tarnished brass thing I'd found at a flea market, usually sang a cheerful little jingle, a welcome to the fragrant haven I'd poured my soul into. My name is Lila March, and the Verdant Quill, my little flower shop, wasn't just a business, it was an extension of my heart, a place where petals told stories and stems sketched emotions. I didn't just sell flowers, I curated moments, crafted botanical poetry. My style was wild, whimsical, a little untamed. Think Secret Garden meets Dutch master painting. I championed locally sourced blooms, foraged foliage, and unexpected textures, a far cry from the stiff, formal arrangements that dominated the more traditional florists in our town of Oakhaven. For 3 years, the Verdant Quill had blossomed, slowly but surely. Tucked away on a cobblestone side street, it had become a beloved fixture for those who appreciated artistry over ostentation. I knew my customers by name, their favorite flowers, the stories behind their orders. A single, perfect gardenia for an anniversary, a riot of sunflowers to brighten a sick room, a cascade of trailing jasmine for a bride who dreamed of a bohemian wedding. Each arrangement was a conversation, a unique composition born from empathy and a deep, abiding love for the ephemeral beauty of flowers. Then Seraphina's Floral Emporium opened on High Street. Seraphina's, as it quickly became known, its owner, Ms. Seraphina Blackwood, a woman whose perfectly lacquered demeanor seemed as rigid as her rose arrangements, was everything the Verdant Quill was not. It was vast, gleaming, aggressively commercial, specializing in imported, mass-produced blooms, impeccably uniform and utterly devoid of personality. Blackwood herself, a woman of a certain age, with a helmet of unnaturally blonde hair, and a smile that never quite reached her cold, assessing eyes, made no secret of her disdain for my charming but ultimately unsustainable little hobby, as she once referred to my shop at a local business association meeting. The trouble started subtly, like a faint, unpleasant odor you can't quite place. A string of 1-star online reviews appeared almost overnight, all from anonymous profiles, all vaguely complaining about wilted flowers and unprofessional service, accusations so far removed from my meticulous standards they were laughable, yet stung nonetheless. Then, a wedding client, for whom I'd designed a breathtaking arch of peonies and wild roses, called in a panic the day before her ceremony. Her mother had heard a rumor from a very reliable source that I often used substandard, wilting blooms, and was notoriously unreliable with large orders. I managed to reassure her, but the seed of doubt had been planted, not just in her mind, but in the community. It escalated. My regular Tuesday delivery of fresh hellebores from a local organic farm mysteriously vanished from my doorstep, where the driver always left it before I opened. The driver swore he'd delivered it. The farm confirmed it was sent. It was chalked up to a neighborhood prank, but it felt targeted. Then, a custom order for a corporate event, an elaborate display of orchids and exotic foliage I'd spent days sourcing and designing, was accidentally misdelivered to a different address across town, arriving hours late and slightly battered, despite my clear triple-checked instructions with the courier service, a service Seraphina's also frequently used. The client was furious. My apologies felt hollow. The whispers grew louder. Lila's struggling. I'd hear indirectly. The Verdant Quill isn't what it used to be. My orders began to dwindle. The cheerful jingle of my doorbell became less frequent. The stress was a constant, gnawing companion. I lay awake at night, my mind racing, replaying every interaction, every order, searching for my own failings. Was I losing my touch? Was Miss Blackwood right? Was my little hobby indeed unsustainable in the face of her ruthless efficiency? The joy I found in my work, the very essence of the Verdant Quill, began to wither under the oppressive weight of anxiety and self-doubt. One particularly bleak Monday, after discovering a bucket of my most expensive David Austin roses inexplicably tipped over outside my back door, their delicate petals bruised and muddied, something snapped. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was sabotage. And my intuition, a gut feeling as strong as the scent of night phlox, pointed directly at Seraphina Blackwood and her Floral Emporium. She was the only one who stood to gain from my failure. Her shop was thriving, yes, but she seemed to possess a vindictive jealousy, a need not just to succeed, but to see any perceived competition utterly vanquished. My artistic, heart-centered approach was a quiet rebuke to her commercialism, and I suspected she couldn't stand it. But intuition wasn't proof. I couldn't go around accusing a prominent local businesswoman without concrete evidence. The thought of involving the police felt premature and potentially damaging to what little reputation I had left. Oak Haven was a small town. A public feud would be messy, and Ms. Blackwood, with her smooth connections and veneer of respectability, would likely paint me as a hysterical, failing competitor. No, I needed to be smarter. I needed to be like the resilient wildflowers I so admired, the ones that found a way to bloom even in the harshest, most unforgiving environments. The idea came to me in the quiet solitude of my shop, surrounded by the silent, fragrant beauty of my flowers. If someone was deliberately targeting me, they were likely doing it when they thought no one was watching. Early mornings, late evenings, the vulnerable moments around deliveries, hidden cameras. It felt cloak and dagger, something out of a spy movie, not the life of a small-town florist. But my anger, now a cold, focused resolve, overrode my hesitation. I did my research, ordered a couple of discreet, motion-activated mini cameras online, tiny things that could be easily concealed. One I positioned carefully amongst a tangle of ivy in a hanging basket near my front delivery drop-off spot. The other I secreted inside a large, decorative birdcage filled with dried flowers that sat on a high shelf overlooking my back alley, where my bins and overflow stock were kept. I set them to record to a secure cloud server, my heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and a grim sense of purpose. Then, I waited. The waiting was an agony of suspense. Every early morning, before opening, I'd check the footage, my breath held, my stomach churning. For days, nothing but the usual urban ballet. Stray cats, delivery drivers from other businesses, the occasional late-night reveler. I started to doubt myself again. Was I being paranoid? Was I manufacturing a villain where there was only misfortune? Then, on a drizzly Thursday morning, reviewing the previous night's footage from the back alley camera, I saw it. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. A figure, cloaked in a dark, hooded raincoat, their face obscured, approached my bins. My heart hammered. The figure methodically opened one of my large waste bins, the one I used for green waste, flower stems, and discarded leaves. Then, they produced a small, dark plastic bottle from their pocket and liberally doused the contents of the bin before quickly retreating into the shadows. A chemical. Something to make my organic waste toxic, perhaps to damage the composting facility the town used, or to create a foul odor that would be blamed on my shop's poor hygiene. The malice of it was breathtaking. The front camera footage from that same morning, just before dawn, around 5:45 a.m., delivered the next blow. My weekly delivery of fresh-cut flowers from a collective of local growers was due. The footage showed the familiar delivery van pull up. The driver, a young man named Tom who I knew and trusted, placed 3 large buckets of flowers carefully by my front door, as usual. He knocked, waited a moment, then, seeing the shop was still dark, got back in his van and drove off. Minutes later, a different van pulled up, a sleek, dark gray van, identical to the ones used by Seraphina's Floral Emporium. A figure emerged, also in a dark coat, but this one less careful about concealing their face in the pre-dawn gloom. It was Marcus, Ms. Blackwood's surly, ever-present assistant manager. I watched, my blood running cold, as Marcus swiftly picked up 2 of my 3 flower buckets, loaded them into his van, and drove away. Stolen. My flowers, my livelihood, brazenly stolen. The rage I felt was a physical force, coiling in my gut, but my mind remained surprisingly clear. This was it. This was the proof. But the hooded figure in the back alley? Who was that? The build was slighter than Marcus's. I kept the cameras running. The following week, determined to catch the hooded figure more clearly, I subtly repositioned the back alley camera, angling it slightly lower, hoping to catch a glimpse of their face if the hood slipped. I also leaked a false rumor through a chatty supplier that I was expecting an unusually valuable early morning shipment of rare orchids. The bait worked. 2 nights later, at precisely 3:22 a.m., the back alley camera sprang to life. The same hooded figure appeared. They seemed more agitated this time, perhaps searching for the non-existent orchids. They fumbled with the lock on my back door, then, frustrated, turned their attention back to the bins. As they leaned over, the hood slipped back for a fraction of a second. The motion-activated security light flickered on, illuminating their face in its harsh glare. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't an employee. It wasn't Marcus. It was Seraphina Blackwood herself. Her perfectly lacquered hair was slightly disheveled, her face contorted in an expression of venomous spite as she poured another vial of something noxious into my green waste. The queen of high street floristry, scuttling in a dark alley in the dead of night like a common vandal. The sheer, petty vindictiveness of it was almost more shocking than the theft by her employee. I had it all. Marcus stealing my deliveries, Miss Blackwood herself engaging in petty vandalism and contamination. Clear, undeniable video evidence. My first instinct was to storm over to Seraphina's Floral Emporium, to confront her, to scream my accusations. But then I thought of her smooth denials, her powerful connections, the way she could twist narratives. A public tantrum would play right into her hands, paint me as unhinged. No. I had learned from my flowers. Sometimes the quietest bloom has the most profound impact. My response needed to be like a perfectly composed arrangement, elegant, factual, and devastatingly effective. I spent the next 2 days meticulously editing the video footage. I compiled the clearest clips of Marcus taking the flower buckets, his face clearly visible. I added the footage of Ms. Blackwood in the alley, freeze-framing the moment her hood slipped, her identity unmistakable. I juxtaposed these with images of the anonymous negative reviews, screenshots of worried messages from clients about the rumors. I gathered delivery confirmations from my suppliers, invoices for the stolen flowers. I was building a case, not for a court of law, necessarily, but for the court of public opinion. Then, I wrote, not an angry diatribe, but a calm, factual account of what had been happening to the Verdant Quill over the past few months. I detailed the escalating sabotage, the financial losses, the emotional toll. I explained how I had installed the cameras, and what they had revealed. My tone was measured, almost sorrowful, focusing on the disappointment of discovering such behavior within our small business community. I didn't use inflammatory language. I let the facts and the video speak for themselves. On a Friday morning, when I knew Oakhaven's local social media groups were most active, I took a deep breath, uploaded the compiled video evidence, and posted my carefully worded account to the Verdant Quill's Instagram and Facebook pages, and shared it to the Oakhaven Community Forum. Then, I opened my shop, the little brass bell above the door sounding strangely normal, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. My phone began to buzz, then chirp, then explode. Likes, shares, comments. The initial reactions were shock, disbelief. This can't be true! Seraphina Blackwood? No. But the video evidence was irrefutable. As more people watched, the disbelief turned to outrage. Disgusting. Boycott Seraphinas. Support the Verdant Quill. The hashtag Oakhaven Blooms for Lila started trending locally. My regular customers rallied, sharing the post with furious comments. Other small business owners in Oakhaven, some of whom had also experienced Ms. Blackwood's sharp elbows and underhanded tactics, voiced their support, sharing their own stories. The local newspaper picked it up. Then, a regional news blog. By lunchtime, my small shop was filled with people, not all of them buying flowers, many just coming to offer a kind word, a hug, a promise of support. The little brass bell sang a frantic, joyful tune all day. The fallout for Seraphina's Floral Emporium was swift and brutal. An impromptu protest formed outside her shop, a collection of angry locals holding signs scrawled with "Boycott Seraphina's" and "Oakhaven supports small business." Her online reviews plummeted, now filled with genuine, furious one-star ratings and links to my video. Suppliers, seeing the PR disaster unfolding, began to distance themselves. Marcus, her assistant manager, was reportedly fired almost immediately in a desperate attempt at damage control, though most saw it as too little, too late. Ms. Blackwood herself issued a rambling, incoherent statement through her lawyer, denying everything, blaming disgruntled employees, even vaguely threatening legal action against me for defamation, a threat that evaporated when Ms. Pruce. Sharma, my own lawyer, whom I'd kept informed, sent a polite but firm letter outlining the strength of our evidence. Within a week, Seraphina's Floral Emporium, once the gleaming monolith of High Street, looked like a besieged fortress, its windows dark, its doors often closed during business hours. The boycott was devastatingly effective. The Verdant Quill, meanwhile, bloomed like never before. New customers, drawn by the story and eager to support an honest local business, flocked to my little shop. Orders poured in for weddings, for birthdays, for just because bouquets. I had to hire 2 part-time assistants, talented young floral artists themselves, to keep up with the demand. The sense of community, of Oakhaven rallying around me, was incredibly humbling and heartwarming. My shop became more than just a place to buy flowers. It became a symbol of resilience, of integrity, of the power of a small voice speaking truth. The journey had been agonizing, the stress at times unbearable. There were moments I had wanted to give up, to pack up my secateurs and retreat. But standing in my bustling shop, surrounded by the vibrant colors and intoxicating scents of my beloved flowers, the cheerful jingle of the bell, a constant, happy refrain, I knew I had done the right thing. I had faced the ugliness of jealousy and deceit, not with more ugliness, but with calm facts and undeniable truth. Miss Blackwood eventually sold her shop at a considerable loss and quietly left Oakhaven. The Verdant Quill continued to flourish, rooted in honesty, artistry, and the loyal support of a community that valued both. I learned that even the most delicate bloom can possess an astonishing strength, and that sometimes the most powerful statements are made not with loud accusations, but with the quiet, irrefutable evidence of a well-tended garden and a camera that doesn't lie.